close your eyes and make yourself comfortable. Take a slow, deep breath and let it go with a soft sigh. Imagine a warm, steady light just beyond your eyelids, not bright enough to keep you awake, but gentle enough to let you know you're safe. Tonight's story is a long, calming journey, an evening to settle into, with a slow and steady pace that guides you toward sleep. Listen now as I weave a quiet, comforting tale that grows slowly like the tide, unfolding little by little until everything is calm and soft. There was a small house near a winding river, and in the cool hush of late afternoon, its garden slept beneath an easy sky. The trees there moved with the gentlest of breaths, the kind of breath that could only come from a day easing out into evening. A low, steady song of water went on in the background, a soft rhythm like someone turning the pages of a long and familiar book. In that house lived a man with strong hands and a kindly heart. He had worked with fire for many years and knew the comfort of a warm hearth and the steady, honest rhythm of steady work. He kept a quiet life, the kind of life where small gestures grew into the greatest kindnesses. A warm loaf set on the table, a pipe tucked into a corner and lit just at dusk, a coat smoothed and held for a friend. His name was Joe, and the house that he tended felt like a harbor on stormy nights, safe and steady, simple and true. One evening, the wind came in soft and cool from the river. Joe stood by his window and watched light move across the water like ribbons. He heard the far-off call of birds winging home, the gentle creak of the gate at the garden's edge, and the slow breathing of his quiet town getting ready for night. He had a way of noticing little things people sometimes miss. The way a child's laughter floated back from the lane, the faint smell of bread from a neighbor's oven, the color a cloud blushes when the sun dips low. Those little things were the treasures of his evenings. He loved the soft routine of home, the way a spoon must be set just so, the way tea should always be poured for another even if no one has asked, the way a hand was offered first, a simple helping hand without words. He thought of the people he cared for and how small kindnesses made their days lighter. This comfort slowed his heart and made him breathe more gently. Not far away, beyond the narrow lane and past a little churchyard where old stones rested in rows, a child had once wandered. Years ago, when the river looked wider and the marshes seemed endless, a small boy had learned the names carved on the garden stones. He came to call himself simply by a shorter, rounder name, a name that belonged to him like a little bell. The boy grew tall and walked farther, and later on, the same river would carry him out to other shores. He would go away for a while and come back with different clothes and a careful look, softer at the edges from the passage of time. Yet, in the quiet spaces, he always remembered the steady warmth of Joe's hearth. When the child was still young, on a particular misty afternoon, he had wandered near the churchyard and met someone out among the graves, a man who had traveled far and suffered. meeting weighed on the boy like a secret and opened paths he had not expected to follow. For the rest of his days, that encounter sat quietly in his mind, like a little coal kept safe for a colder night. Life moved on. Seasons turned the gardens from green to gold, and the river took the sun across its broad face each evening. The boy, who had grown into a man, found himself walking again along the old lanes. Sometimes he came back to the small house where Joe kept the fire, and Joe would greet him with a welcome that was steady and the sort you could count on. Sometimes he stood at the window for a while to watch the tide and the lights and small things people took for granted, and he felt gratitude settle deep in his chest. There were other lives nearby, bright, curious girls with clever hands and soft laughter, neighbors who kept watch and who probed the world around them with wide eyes. One of the girls was gentle in a particular way. She worked steadily and learned with her hands. She could mend a broken stitch or set a great pan of food upon the table so carefully someone might mistake it for a quiet, small miracle. Her name was Biddy, and like a carefully tended garden, she was steady and patient. She filled the house with small comforts, making it a place where presence felt like a warm coat. Over the years, the man who would grow into the life of a gentleman, the one who had once been the boy, sailed and walked and learned to read long words on big old pages. He experienced the curious tug of ambition and the steady pull of remembrance. He built thoughtful plans. He chose careful clothes for the occasions life offered, and yet he treasured most the steady hands that helped him settle down when the world felt too large. On a quiet morning that carried the scent of rain in the air, he received a note, small, folded, and certain, asking him to visit someone who had once helped shape the life of a girl he had known long ago. It was a simple note, but notes have a way of starting small rivers in our lives. He took a slow breath and knew he would go. He wrapped himself in protective clothes, not the heavy armor of the city, but the practical warmth of someone who remembers the cold nights on the marsh. He walked through streets that had the same bones as before, familiar stone and steady lamps, and then turned along the route where the marshes open. The evening fog settled onto the grass like a shawl. In the distance, the river whispered, slow and quiet. He followed the path he had taken when he was small, and when he was new to courage, memory laid a gentle hand on his shoulder, and the way felt like a welcome that always waits at some open gate. At Sati's house, where once everything had been dressed in bridal white that had grown old, he found someone waiting, a woman with a dress of many winters, who had kept a fierce and private life behind closed doors. But she was not what the quiet boy had imagined entirely. She had the tired softness of a life that had loved and lost in complicated ways. She spoke quietly to him. Her voice was small now, like a bird's wing on a still day. She admitted mistakes, not all of them perhaps, but some, and she gave him something folded carefully in an old case. the name of the thing she trusted with, a brief request for forgiveness, and the faintest of wise instructions for living with what comes after such gifts. It is possible, she said, to change an old sorrow into a new quiet, not to erase what has happened, but to let what is left be kinder than what began. That was her gentle plea, to turn towards simple rightness, small mercies, and the old, honest work of life. You can feel her regret like a soft rain, at first a sting, then a clean wash, then a gentle surface growing even. The man who received these small things took them like a relic, as if someone had placed a little warm point in his pocket to carry along the darker roads. He folded it into himself, and it fit like a coin into a palm. Later, on a night that breathes with river wind, and the sky hesitates between clear and cloud, he found himself moved to stand again on a ruined garden bench, and there was a soft figure, gentle and kind, reaching a hand to meet his. They spoke in brief sentences, not many, because some things cross through the air on their own and do not need long explanations. A hand reached out, and the other hand closed it, and in that small, warm squeeze, the world made sense for a wonderful instant. Not all things mend. Not all stories end in light. But some endings are gentle enough that they fold us like a blanket and hold us warm for a while. That man's return to the old house was followed by a slow, steady change in the neighborhood. The house that had been still and silent was prepared one day to go to auction. A sign was placed upon its gate to mark that soon this place of so much memory would find a new life in new hands. The old garden stayed quiet. The river continued to sing. People who had passed through those days, as actors and witnesses, stepped out of the shadows and took up their ordinary walks. The world, as it always does, leaned toward ordinary morning again, and the man walked the village paths beneath trees that spoke with leaves. As the seasons turned and the years soft-drafted on their hours, many small events happened. Year after year, for some quiet, lasting reason, people bound by mutual gratitude and patient consistency found their way back to one another. One gentle pair were married in a small, bright kitchen in spring, not for show, but for honest company. The neighbor, who smoked his pipe and tended the anvil, stood in a way that had no ceremony, but had all the warmth a person could ask for. It was a kind of everyday wedding. A basket on a chair, a piece of music hummed between two people who had lived long enough to speak less and mean more. The world kept tumbling forward. The man who had once been a boy, who had traveled far and built himself a quiet business in a far city, wrote regular letters and kept watch for those he loved. He returned sometimes to the old stone, and sometimes the old faces returned to him. Like nature, the heart can be patient and remember what is worth remembering. The steady, simple things, bread broken, hands held, the light of a family home where a child grows. Those memories live like small stars, and very often they are enough. There is a deep lesson, in the end, that lives in this longer kind of life, And in these small changes, greatness is not always what we first rush after. Sometimes what we need most is not the clang and bright show of lofty things, but the slow, steady tending of what is near at hand, the hearth that stays warm, the little promises kept, the forgiving voice. We cannot change every difficult thing we have done, but we can change the way we live from now on. We can be tenderers of others' fires. Slowly now, as your breaths deepen and your body settles, picture a soft, steady river close by. Imagine a small rowboat tied to a gentle bank, swinging slightly as the tide nudges it. There is a warm light in a nearby cottage window. You can see a pair of hands, not rushed, gently setting a cup of tea on the table. You can hear the faint clink of a spoon. You are warm and safe. Your chest rises and falls like that calm river, slow and reliable. You let the last of the daylight slide off the world like a closing curtain. And the room where you lie is now filled with a comfortable dark that is nothing but a soft blanket. There is nothing left for you to do now but to rest. Your life, like the characters in our story, is a long, tender thing made up of many small moments. Some of them will need gentle mending. Some will need to be kept as they are, treasured quietly. All of them will pass, but they will pass with you if you need them tonight to settle your heart. Let the words you have heard of small kindnesses, of honest work, of second chances, move slowly into your mind. Let them sit there like a warm pebble that calms the small waves. Now, very slowly, let your breathing settle even more. With every breath out, feel your muscles loosen and your limbs grow heavy and pleasant. Picture Joe's steady hands, Biddy's gentle smile, the river slipping by in the choir of the reeds. Picture a small seat by a low fire where someone you love would always find you if they wanted to talk. Let that image rest in your mind. Take another deep breath in. Hold for just a moment and let it go. Let your thoughts float like little leaves on water. Allow your body to be safe and soft and still. You are held. You are warm. You are enough. Let the river breathe with you. Let the night hold you. I'll say these words and leave you with them. May you be gentle with yourself. May you be quiet and kind. May you feel safe, and may sleep come to you like a good friend, steady and soft. Good night. If your body wants to drift away now, allow it. There is no hurry and nothing left to do. You can return to these words any night you like. Sleep well and rest in the gentle hush of this long, slow tide.